What's going on? Welcome to the 5-Minute Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Colton Olson, and on this podcast, we spend about 5 minutes, I say about 5, give or take a couple sometimes, breaking down and teaching you to apply psychological concepts that world-class athletes, CEOs, coaches, and elite military units use to take their performance to the next level. The key word here is apply. I don't want you to come here and just get a bunch of information and not know how to use it. I want you to leave here every day feeling like you have something in your hands that you can use right away to improve your life. Let's get to it. I'm going to start today by asking you a question. The question is, how many thoughts do you believe that human beings have every day? You might think 1,000, 100,000, maybe even 1,000,000. Typically when I ask this question, I get answers that are all over the place, and someone always yells out a huge number like 6 million. We definitely don't have 6 million thoughts a day, but we do have a lot. Research is a bit torn when it comes to this topic. You get a lot of different answers. Some people say 60,000 thoughts a day. Some people say just 6,000. But generally, it seems like the most widely accepted number is somewhere around 10 to 12,000, which is still a ton of thoughts. Information is constantly flowing in and out as we try to make sense of our reality and operate as efficiently and as effectively as possible. So the follow-up to my first question, though, is assuming you have 10,000 thoughts a day, what percentage of your 10,000 thoughts per day are irrational, related to things that have happened in the past, or are related to things that might never happen? Again, you might be thinking a lot, and that's normal. Research shows us that in general, around 80% of thoughts that human beings have are negative, and up to 95% of our thoughts are repetitive. And the reason that 95% are repetitive, those two numbers are linked, the negativity and repetitive numbers, because we like to think about negative things over and over again. So it's a lot of negativity, a lot of repetition. But for me, I think the most interesting thing about our daily thinking patterns is the manner in which thoughts enter our consciousness, meaning how we end up paying attention to our thoughts and how we let them impact our behavior. So if you were to ask most people, again, how they decide what thoughts they take seriously or pay attention to, most of them say they don't decide, that thoughts just show up in their head and they roll with it. Because of this, most people's mood and their actions are controlled by thoughts that are seemingly random and often negative or irrational. So feeling like you're being controlled by negative and irrational thoughts is not a recipe for any sort of success or high-level performance. And I would imagine that some of you listening might be able to relate to that, especially in moments that are a little bit chaotic, high pressure, unpredictable. Our thoughts can get weird. And I'd say that this is normal, but since you're listening to this, I'm assuming you don't want to be normal. So what's the solution? How do we avoid being victims to thoughts that we don't want or that don't serve us? And I really like the saying, thoughts should serve us. I think that's one of the most important and overlooked aspects of psychology, that thoughts are designed to be there to help us, to serve us. We're not there to serve them. So we'll get back to that. But how do we avoid that? So to avoid it, you have to master the art of thinking seriously and thinking rationally. So when I say thinking seriously, I mean learning to take the time to really wrestle with your thoughts and have productive conversations with yourself. Most people think that thinking is just accepting thoughts that come through and seeing what happens. That's not. Thinking is those conversations, the pausing, reflecting, making sure that whatever's going on in your mind is correct for you in that moment. So that's thinking seriously, and thinking rationally means using those conversations you're having with yourself to determine which thoughts are productive and centered on things that are realistic, not hypothetical. So when you first start doing this, I think the best way to go about it is taking the approach of holding your thoughts captive when they first enter your mind. By holding them captive, I just mean recognizing them, holding on to them for a moment, and as you hold on to them, ask yourself these 4 questions. I'm going to give you 4 questions to help you master the art of thinking rationally. So the first question you should ask yourself as you're holding your thoughts captive is this thought positive and productive? So it needs to be positive and productive, meaning that it helps you feel like you can take action and accomplish something in that moment. Question 2, is it constructive or is it destructive? So constructive, which is what we want, means it's building you up, reminds you that you're capable of doing what you need to do, you're not an imposter. Destructive is the opposite. It's reminding you that you don't have the skills, you're not competent, you can't handle what's coming your way. It breaks you down. So is it constructive or destructive? Then question number 3 is is this thought related to something that's really happening, or is it made up? Again, we want thoughts that are focused on the present moment and things that are actually happening in front of us, because that's what we have to take action based on, which is what really matters. We don't want to be living in hypothetical thoughts. It's dangerous, it gets emotional, and it takes our focus away from what's actually important. So that's the third question. Is it related to something that's really happening, or is it made up? And the last question, question number 4, is will it help me accomplish what I'm trying to do in this moment? Again, we want to be action oriented. We want to make sure that these thoughts serve us and put us in the best position to perform in whatever environment that we're in. And this might not be a huge task like at work or in sports. It could just be an important conversation you're having with somebody. Maybe you're having a conversation with your spouse and you want to be focused. You're having a conversation with a coworker that's important and you want to be focused. We want to make sure that our thoughts help you accomplish whatever it is that's right in front of you. So those are the 4 questions. That exercise, it really does a good job of teaching you what type of thoughts best serve you and how to recognize the ones that don't. So I call those ones poison. We want to recognize the thoughts that are poisonous, they're infecting us, and only use the ones that are good, they're clean fuel. And then we want to be able to eliminate the poison and hang on to the rational, productive ones, which that exercise helps you do. So this process takes a minute when you first start doing it, but it pays massive dividends if you take it seriously and refine this skill. And thinking seriously and rationally is definitely a skill, so you have to flex the muscle. Most people never really learn to think, and as a result, let those irrational and destructive thoughts drive their behavior. Your thoughts are great servants, but bad masters. Do not let them own you. Own your thoughts. Hold them captive and only put the ones to work that make you better in that moment. That's the art of rational thinking. That's all we got for today. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe, leave a review. Find me on Twitter at RadoPsych, and I'll see you back here next time on 5 Minute Mindset.